Dusk hung heavy. Cicadas hummed. Boards groaned under the weight of a man who hadn't moved in hours. The rancher sat still, shotgun across his lap. Shoulders bent by years, eyes fixed on the horizon. Silence his only company. Then, hoofbeats, slow, uneven, a rider barely clinging to the saddle. The sound dragged across the plain, pulling him from stillness. He rose, boots scraping wood. The horse stumbled to a halt at the gate. The rider slid, fell hard. Dust swallowed her, no scream. No name, just a broken sob. Help me. Please. Her dress torn, her face cut. Blood mixed with dirt. She tried to push herself up, but collapsed again. He stepped down, jaw set. No words, no questions, just action. He lifted her like a child, carried her across the porch, into the cabin. The fire crackled alive, casting red across her bruises. He laid her down near the hearth, knelt beside her. Shallow breaths rattled her chest. His hand brushed back tangled hair. Bruises, not from work. Not from land. From men. Her fingers clutched his arm, desperate, trembling. She whispered something. Too soft to catch. His silence hardened. He'd heard whispers like that before, once, long ago. The scar across his shoulder burned in memory. He stood, shadow stretched across the room. Then his eyes narrowed. Through the window, high on the ridge, a lantern flickered. Not chance. Not accident. Someone had brought her here, or left her to die. The porch boards creaked under his weight again. He knew what it meant. This wasn't mercy. It was a beginning. One that would not let him rest. The truth will come in the firelight. Whiskey burned as it touched torn skin. Clara flinched, but no cry left her lips. She'd felt worse. The rancher worked steady, pouring, pressing, rapping. His face unreadable. Fire snapped behind them, throwing shadows across raw bruises. Her voice broke in fragments. A name half-choked, Clara. Then the story spilled, clipped and jagged. A banker's man. Papers marked red. Debt she never signed. Her father dead. Her land stolen in ink. She ran. She thought she was safe. Until the gang caught her, she stopped. She didn't need to finish. He knew the rest. His jaw set hard, a muscle ticking. 10 years earlier, different face, same cruelty. He'd fought then. The scars on his back told the cost. Silence became his refuge. Until now, Clara's hand gripped his, fragile but firm. They'll come. They always come. His silence answered louder than words. The night shifted. Wind brushed the shutters. Then 3 knocks, slow, heavy, measured. The rancher froze. So did she. A voice seeped through the wood, slick as oil. Evening, friend. You got something that belongs to Mr. Harlan. No answer. Only the fire popping. Clara's eyes widened, mouth trembling. The voice lingered, calm, certain. We'll be back. Boots crunched on gravel. Horses snorted. Hoofbeats faded into the dark. The cabin held stillness again, but the silence was different now. Not peace, not rest. It was the start of war. Scars of the past rise with morning light. Morning crept in pale and cold. Clara stirred on the cot, restless eyes searching the cabin's dim corners. The rancher moved without sound, working the stove, iron pan hissing. Coffee black as midnight filled the tin pot. She watched him, waited. Finally, "Why didn't you answer them?" He said nothing, poured the coffee. Sat it down, her voice rose, strained. "Why didn't you answer?" At last his eyes lifted. His words dropped flat, heavy. "Didn't have to. They know where to find me." The silence that followed pressed thicker than smoke. Her breath caught. She understood the weight of that line. The frame shifted. Back in time. 10 years gone. He was younger then, fire in his stance, jaw set against the banker's men. He fought for neighbors who couldn't pay. Stood when no one else dared. The gang's boots crushed him down, whips tearing his back until fire turned to scars. Body broken, spirit smothered. Silence became his only weapon. Now Clara trembled. Not from fear of him, from recognition. She too had lived beneath Harlan's shadow, debt and grief binding tighter than rope. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Why didn't you leave?" He looked through the window, beyond the plain, where horizon met sky in endless emptiness. This is home. Nothing else. The silence after was heavier than words. A vow, unspoken, Clara understood. She had not stumbled into shelter. She had found a man chained to the same ghost she carried. The gang would come. Not just for her, for him. To finish what they started, and he knew it. Threats ride the ridge road before sundown. Midday heat shimmered on the plains. Dust rose on the ridge road, rolling closer, thick and certain. 3 riders. Saddles creaked. Spurs jingled faint under the wind. The rancher sat unmoved on the porch, shotgun across his lap. Still as stone. Inside, Clara pressed against the curtain, hands trembling, breath caught in her throat. She dared not speak. The men dismounted slow, deliberate. Laughter scraped from their throats, cruel and careless. Boots crunched on gravel. One spat tobacco dark into the dirt. Evening, mister. Banker sends his regards. The words slid oily through the air. Another leaned in, smirk cutting wide. We'll take the girl. Debt says she's property till it's paid. The rancher didn't blink. Didn't shift. Silence. A sneer curled. Cat got your tongue? Boots thudded closer. The shotgun rose, steady, unshaking. Not fired. Just aimed, stillness cut through. Dust swirled. A bead of sweat slid down a brow. Somewhere above, a hawk cried sharp. Then, click. Hammer drawn back. The men froze. One chuckled nervously. You don't want to do that. Finally, the rancher spoke. Words low, flat, heavy as lead. Get off my land, the standoff held. Time dragged like iron. At last, they stepped back, slow, muttering. Smirks never leaving. One spat again, voice hard. You'll regret this. They swung into saddles, turned, and rode off. Dust trailing, laughter fading. Clara exhaled sharp, clutching the curtain with shaking hands. Relief refused her. On the porch, the rancher lowered the shotgun but did not move. He knew this was no end. Just the warning. Harlan never lets go. He'll be back, with more men, more fire. The whisper of war stirs inside the cabin. The cabin felt smaller that night, walls pressing in with every crack of the fire. Shadows stretched long, twitching like restless spirits. Clara paced, steps sharp against the wooden floor, breath quick. We need help, she said, voice tight. Neighbors, townsfolk, someone. The rancher didn't lift his gaze. He shook his head once, slow, final. No one stands against Harlan. Clara stopped, fists clenched. They will, if you lead. Silence met her. He poured black coffee into a tin cup, stared into the steam as if answers might rise from it. He drank. He said nothing. The night outside stirred. A sound, thin, distant. Coyotes yipping. Or maybe not. Maybe laughter. Men's laughter. Clara froze, hand darting to his arm. Her whisper cut the stillness. Please, don't let them take me. The words cracked something deep. Another voice echoed from years past, trembling the same plea. A voice he'd failed. The memory burned sharp, scar deeper than skin. Slowly, he stood. He reached above the mantel, pulled down a rifle long untouched. Dust cloaked the barrel, years of silence clinging to it. He wiped it clean with steady hands. The moment hung heavy, air charged. Clara watched, hope flickering across her face like firelight. But hope was dangerous. She knew it. He strapped on his holster, checked the revolver. The sound of metal sharp in the quiet. They'll ride tomorrow, he muttered. Almost to himself, the fire popped, sparks leaping like warnings. The war wasn't here yet. But the air knew. The air carried its whisper. Morning broke with a brittle stillness, the kind that pressed on the chest. For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. Then hoofbeats. The ground shook as 5 riders thundered into view, Harlan's men, faces cruel beneath the brim of their hats. The rancher stood on the porch, rifle cradled, revolver heavy at his hip. Clara hid in the cabin's shadow, clutching the curtain, knuckles white. The riders spread wide, circling like wolves. Their leader leaned forward in the saddle, voice sharp. Step aside. Last chance, the rancher said nothing. Silence stretched, then split like lightning. His rifle cracked first. One outlaw toppled from his saddle, horse screaming, dirt exploding under hooves. Chaos erupted. Gunfire split the air, acrid smoke curling into the sky. Clara screamed into her hand, smothering the sound. The rancher moved with grim precision. No words, no wasted bullets. Rifle barked. Revolver spat. Each shot placed, deliberate. A bullet tore through his arm, blood blooming hot against his sleeve. But he didn't falter. An outlaw rushed the porch. The rancher swung the shotgun like an axe, wood and iron colliding with bone. The man dropped, silent. Clara gasped, wide-eyed, breath snagging in her throat. 2 remained. They crouched at the tree line, firing wild. The rancher knelt, calm, steady as stone. 1 clean shot, 1 man folded. The last outlaw panicked. He wheeled his horse, spurred it hard. But even as he fled, he spat words that clung to the air. "Harlan's comin' himself." The echo carried with the hoofbeats, fading into the plains. Silence crept back, broken only by Clara's shuddering breaths. The rancher lowered his rifle, blood dripping down his sleeve, shoulders sagging but unbroken. No smile. No victory. Just the weight of truth. This wasn't the end. It was the invitation, and Harlan never declined. The cabin reeked of smoke and blood, air thick with the sting of both. Clara worked by the fire's glow, hands steady though her cheeks were streaked with tears. She cleaned the wound, pressed cloth to it, bound it tight. He flinched, jaw tightening, but spoke no protest. Her voice broke the quiet, soft trembling. "You could have let me go. Why didn't you?" For the first time, his eyes met hers, not fixed on the wound, but on the fear carved deep in her gaze. His voice came low, rough but certain, "Because I've seen what happens when no one stands." It was the most he had spoken since she arrived. Clara drew a breath, sharp, uneven. Relief and sorrow knotted together in her chest. She whispered back, "My father said the same thing." Her lips trembled. He died for it. The silence after was heavy, but different than before. Not cold, not empty. It was shared. 2 souls scarred by the same shadow, bound not by blood, but by loss, and by the choice to resist. Outside, the plains stretched wide, endless, the night wind brushing the shutters. Danger hadn't passed. Both of them knew Harlan was coming. Clara tied the last knot on the bandage, pulling it snug. Her voice steadied. "We wait?" He nodded once. She pressed her forehead against his arm, eyes closing. He didn't move, but this silence meant something new. Not fear. Not defeat. 6 months later, the ranch lay quiet. The kind of quiet born not from emptiness, but from healing. Horses stirred in the corral, and Clara's hands moved with calm assurance as she brushed their coats. Stronger now. Her laughter, faint but real, drifted with the breeze across the yard. The rancher rode in slow from the plains, arms scarred but mended. His presence carried the same weight as before, but something in his posture had eased. They had survived. Not untouched, never untouched. But still standing, word had traveled far. Harlan's empire broken, greed laid bare. Men scattered to the wind. Some swore he fled south. Others whispered he lingered, patient, waiting. The rancher never chased. He didn't need to. Justice had come, late, rough, incomplete, but it came. On the porch, Clara sat with her face tilted toward the sun. Eyes closed, voice low, she whispered words not meant for anyone, and yet for the world itself. Truth outlives fear. The rancher stood near, nodding once. His silence was answer enough. His silence had always been his voice. Then, the frame cracked. The voice of the story shifted, turning outward. If you're still here listening, ask yourself this. When cruelty knocks, when fear demands silence, who are you in this story?